Sangye, Chedan, Sangye, Janan, La, Tenjo, Bardon, Dane, Gyaso, Jen, Dagye, Jeje, Gebe, Sonam, Jola, Benjire, Sangye, Jopara, Joy, Sang. Chedan, Sangye, Janan, La, Tenjo, Bardon, Dane, Gyaso, Jen, Dagye, Jeje, Gebe, Sonam, Jola, Benjire, Sangye, Jopara, Sangye, Zogye, Jonam, Lo, Janjo, Bardon, Dani, Gyazo, Jin, Dagye, Cheje, Gebe, Sanam, Yen, Jola, Benjere, Sangye, Duba, Sa, Shi, Bege, Joje, Medo, Tama, Rera, Linshen, Ninde, Genbande, Sangye, Shinto, Mide, Muay, 这个南大仙郎接巴拉小耶达曼古鲁拉那门达拉甘尼达呀米。Yeah, thank you. Oh yeah. Uh, so we will follow up from last week. So before we begin, please set your motivation to what we call the Bodhisattva's motivation, which is to dedicate the next 1 hour or so for the sake to become enlightened, to become fully enlightened Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. So there's a twofold goal here. One is to become a Buddha. The other is we become a Buddha so that we can help other sentient beings. And in order to become a Buddha, in order to become fully enlightened, there is a lot of things that we are ignorant of, and we need to clarify all those, clear all those ignorances, which we do by learning, by studying, and which we will be doing for the next 1 hour or so. So please set your motivation to what we call the Bodhisattva's motivation, which is to aspire to become a Buddha, fully enlightened Buddha, for the sake of all sentient beings. Why all sentient beings? Because when you are when we do it just for our ourselves or our loved ones, then we tend to become selfish, and most of the time we tend to ignore the people we dislike, such as our enemies, and then those who we consider our strangers, people who we do not know anything about, neither friends nor enemies. We are ignorant of them. We don't know anything about them, so we don't care for them. In order to transform that, we pray, not just pray, but aspire for the benefit of all the sentient beings. So when you say all the sentient beings, we are talking basically about three people. One is your friends or allies, one is your enemies or those people you dislike, and then the rest of the world. So the three types of people whom we take into our fold, and we aspire to become Buddha for their sake. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So the the general topic that we are going through is actually bodhicitta. Yeah, bodhicitta is the general topic, and within bodhicitta there are the causes on how to develop, the causes for developing the bodhicitta, the causes and the conditions, the techniques, and etc. So we are going through the causes for generating bodhicitta, and we actually first we need to train on the four immeasurables, or the four infinite qualities, or sometimes called the four infinite qualities, the four immeasurables, and in the that's from the Sanskrit translation. From the Mahayana perspective, we call them four immeasurables, or the four infinite qualities. From the Pali tradition, from the non-Mahayana tradition, like the Theravada tradition, they call it the Brahma Viharas. So basically, love, joy, equanimity, and love, joy, love, joy, compassion, and equanimity. So immeasurable love, immeasurable joy, immeasurable compassion, and immeasurable equanimity. So these are the four qualities that we need to train in order to generate bodhicitta. So first we are training on equanimity, because without equanimity, we cannot develop bodhicitta. Without training on equanimity, we are so close to people, our loved ones, we are so attached to our close ones, and we are so detached from our people whom we dislike. And basically, we in the Dharma, we call them friends and enemies. So we are so much attached to our friends, and we are so much detached or detested with our enemies. And then there are the rest of the world whom we don't care about at all. So what we do with the practice of equanimity, or here in the book they call it impartiality, impartial, unbiased. So they have the same meaning. So here, the chapter is, they call it the subtext. It's called meditation on impartiality. So we call it impartiality. Sometimes we call it equanimity. Basically, they are both the same thing. So we are setting a level ground, setting the ground to practice compassion, which is the cause for bodhicitta, towards your enemies, your friends, and your strangers. So basically, the three types of people, to look at them as equals, look at them in an impartial and unbiased manner. So in order to do that, we need to contemplate, because if you tell people, your friends and your enemies are all same, if you just tell them, then nobody is going to accept it. But if you explain your reason for saying that, then there is a high chance that people might be able to develop equanimity for enemies as well as friends. So for that reason, the chapter that we are covering today is on impartiality. So last week we did open up with this topic. In order to develop impartiality, so we need to see enemies and friends as one, on the similar ground. So in order to do that, so first we start with detachment, practice of detachment, or non-attachment, maybe it's the proper word. So practicing non-attachment towards people we consider friends, or basically our families, our friends, our allies. So practicing non-attachment towards our allies. That we start with actually one quote from Master, Sublime Master, Noble Master Katyayana, who is a clairvoyant master. Clairvoyant meaning one who can see the future, past, and people's mind, etc. So he was when he went for alms, begging for alms. When he went for alms begging, food begging, he saw the family where the father of the house was eating. The husband, the family, the householder eating his father's meat, the meat from his father, and beating his mother, and actually taking care of his own enemy. So basically, his enemy from the other side of the town was born as a fish, and he was eating the fish, and he was beating up a stray dog. Sorry, his own father has passed away. His own father has died and was born as a fish, which he was eating. His own mother is born as a stray dog, which he was beating, and his enemy was born as his own son, his own child, which he was taking care of. So basically, this tells us that you are taking care of the ones that you detested in your previous life or in previous previous times. You are taking care of that people. You dislike that person, but now you're taking care of them. And then there are the people whom you really love and cannot do without, such as your parents. In this life, you're beating them up, eating their flesh, etc. So Katyayana, Master Katyayana said, I love to see what happens in samsara's show. So samsara is basically an entertainment and a show, because there's nothing is nothing is definite. Nothing is predictable. So one we consider to be at one moment, which we consider to be very close to us, the next moment we become enemies. Someone whom we just consider very bad or negative, in the after some time we tend to develop love or compassion for them. So things keep changing, and actually that's true with in a relationship too. Like a relationship is always keeps ups and downs. There is nothing is permanent, nothing is definitive. So basically, it tells us that in order to practice impartiality, we need to develop equanimity for enemies and friends. And the best way to do that is to reflect on the unpredictability of samsaric life and samsaric birth and death and life, as well as there is nothing solidly concrete about what we consider to be good or bad in samsara. So when someone is close to us and friends, we consider them to be good. When someone is not close to us, or we have a quarrel or a fight with them, we consider them to be bad. So at that moment, they are good and they are bad, but it's nothing definitive. It's not going to be like that forever. The problem is, there are people who will harm us. There are people who will be good to us, and the being good to us or being bad to us, they are all temporary. Nothing is definitive. If you look at history, if you look at world history, you see the friends, the allies, and the enemies always changing. The formations or they're all. It's a formative sort of a relationship. Whether you consider it through the countries or people, culturally. So all the time it's changing. It's constantly changing. So therefore, it tells us that there's nothing to hold on to as something good. Hold on to meaning to grasp on it, not to let it go. To hold on to something concretely, saying this is good and this is bad. So for that, we covered the story of Katyayana. Oh yeah, so that was last week. So this week, so there is another story that Master Pedro Rinpoche is telling us. So another story is that of the Princess Pamacel. Princess Pamacel is the princess, the daughter of King Trisong Delsen. So those of you who are not familiar with Trisong Delsen, so in Tibet, one of their what we call the great Dharma kings of Tibet. So there was one king by the name of Trisong Delsen. So so we usually call them the three the triumvirate of the master, the abbot, and the king. So the king is Trisong Delsen, the master is Padmasambhava, Guru Rinpoche, and the abbot is Master Shantarakshita. So the king Trisong Delsen wanted to bring Buddha Dharma. So he's in 8th century. So in the 8th century, he wanted to bring the flourishment of Buddha Dharma in Tibet happened in 8th century. Before that, there was very few people who do practice Dharma, but not in a large scale. So King Trisong Delsen brought, in order to make the Buddha Dharma flourish, he brought the king, but he brought the teacher. He brought the teacher who is known as the abbot. So the abbot, Master Shantarakshita, to Tibet. So when he came to Tibet, he faced many obstacles, and because he's a monk, there are many of the obstacles. It's not like he cannot, but he dare not pacify them. So there are many obstacles which need to be pacified, which he could not do as a monk. He has the capability, but he does not have the sort of, so that's why Master Padmasambhava, Guru Rinpoche, was also invited to pacify all the obstacles. And Guru Rinpoche, the Chiswan Delsen, and Shandarakshita. So these three are known as the triumvirate of the king, the abbot, and the master. So the three of them. So they have been together in many past lives in order to serve the Dharma and to serve the Dharma and save people. In this case, in this particular case in Tibet, in the 8th century, they both came in this sort of the same time. Like Chiswan Delsen was the king of Tibet. Shandarakshita came to teach the Dharma, and the master Padmasambhava came to help to protect and to preserve, to protect the Dharma. So during that time, King Chiswan Delsen has one daughter, whose name is Pema Sel. So Pema Sel passed away. She died. And she died very early, maybe in the 20s or something. So when she was on her deathbed, she was saying, she told, at that time, Master Padmasambhava is there. So she told that the king said to the Master Padmasambhava that my daughter, Pema Sel, she must be very lucky. So she's on her deathbed. She's about to die. So he told the master, I think my daughter is very, very lucky. From one point of view, from one perspective, she is very lucky to be born as the daughter of the king. So she's a princess of the whole country, etc. So she's very lucky. And she was able to meet with Master Padmasambhava. She's able to meet with Master Shandarakshita, all these great masters and all the great translators and the great practitioners, great masters, great students. So they were all there. She was so lucky to have met all of them. But on the another side, she was very unlucky because she's dying. She's on her deathbed in her 20s, 21 or something. So if you have the book, it's on page number 196. So anyway, so I didn't get to take a exact look at her age. So she's in her early 20s, then she's passing away. Then, like that, the king said, she must be very lucky to be born as the princess, but she is very unlucky to also to be born as to die so early. And that Master Padmasambhava said, there's nothing nice, nothing good about for her to be born as your daughter. Actually, the reason she was born as your daughter was because many centuries ago, when we were the three of us, the King Chiswan Delsen, Padmasambhava, and Shandarakshita. So we three of us were born in a low caste family, right? So in India and in Nepal, you have this the caste system. So people from low caste, they have to do a lot of manual works, so labor, hard labor. So basically, we were born in a very low caste family, and then we were working to build the stupa, the stupa in Nepal. I think it's the bodhicitta. Yeah. So we are building the stupa Charungkashur. In Tibetan, we call it Charungkashur. It's known as Bodhanath Stupa. It's the most iconic stupa in Kathmandu. So when you search for a picture of Kathmandu on the internet, you will find the Bodhanath Stupa. So in local language, they call it Bodhanath Stupa. In Tibetan, we call it Charungkashur. So basically, the Chiswan Delsen, Padmasambhava, and Shandarakshita were born as low caste boys, and they were working. They were building the stupa, and during one of those times, unconsciously, the King Chiswan Delsen, so he was very hot and sweating. So then there were a lot of flies, and the King Chiswan Delsen actually, just waved to wave away one of the flies that is actually disturbing him. And while doing so, he actually killed one fly. And that fly was when he killed the fly, Chisholm doesn't actually make a karmic connection, a karmic debt towards that fly, because he made the fly die before its time, untimely death. So he was responsible for the untimely death of that fly, and the karmic debt actually made him endure the fly being born as his own daughter. So he was able to have a daughter, very happy about that. And then he has to lose the daughter. So when he loses the daughter, that's his child. He has so much pain because he's losing his daughter. So that is the karmic debt, or the karmic result, karmic effect of taking the life of that fly. So when you take the life of the fly, that fly actually was in pain, and so that pain is now reflected in Chisholm himself as a father. He was born as the father of the fly which he killed many centuries ago, and the fly became his daughter, etc. So that's what Padmasambhava said. So there's nothing, she did not come back. She did not become your daughter because of her good karma or anything. She became your daughter because of your karmic debt that you owe towards that fly which you killed. So because of that, she was born as your daughter. So then, so this tells us that so basically nothing is permanent, so therefore nothing is predictable at the same time. So those who we hold on to so much, people, our family, friends and family, basically our allies. Not necessarily true that so from a very wider perspective, those who we consider as our friends and families, our allies, are not necessarily our allies in our previous lives. So in many previous lives, they have harmed us too. And those we consider to be our enemies. So in many previous lives, from a wider perspective, in many previous lives, they have been our friends too. So this is now we will make it a little bit smaller, make it more narrow. We will not go very far, we will not make it wide. We will go very, very small, very narrow, like just this life. In this life, just consider, just remember, just try, just reflect. Okay, so let's do this like a meditation, in a sense, like a guided meditation. So reflect on all the friends that you have in this life. People whom you were close with in this life at an earlier stage of your life. And then either misunderstanding or whatever, confusion, this and that, how many friends that you have lost. Lost not in sense of death, but in the sense of mistrust and etc. So how many friends and, within family members also, you don't trust each other. How many of them you lost trust with each other, you lost contact or connection with them, and therefore contact with them as well. So first you lose the connection, and then you lose the contact with your family members. So so within just this life, we don't have to look very far as to like previous life, the life before, 4 centuries, 5 centuries, like that. We don't have to do that. Just within this lifetime, within a couple years ago, couple decades ago, how many friends we've lost. And then how many friends have we gained? How many strangers that we have sort of transformed into friends? People, many of us, if you are a couple, many of you who you don't know each other, you were not born in the same family, like in the same vicinity as a family, many of you, and but you meet through college, through different places, and then you like each other. There's a connection, and then you become friends. You become then a couple, etc. So strangers turning into friends, friends turning into strangers and enemies. So these are a lot of these things have happened in your own lifetimes. So it tells us we don't have to look very far as to like previous life and the, previous generation like that. Just within this lifetime, within a few years apart, we have gained so many enemies, we have gained so many friends, we have gained so many we can call it strangers. People, once we have a connection, and then when we lose the connection, they become like a stranger to us. We're no longer close with them, so we neglect them, and that's what we define a stranger. So within this lifetime, the type of people, the three types of people, the friends, the enemies, and the strangers, it keep constantly changing. It's fluctuating at all times. So when you look at that, we can understand that nothing is to be granted. Nothing is to be taken for granted. Nothing is concretely solid. Those we call enemies or friends or strangers. So reflect on that. And and then we will go a little bit deeper now. Those we call friends, right? Those we call friends, the allies, like family, friend, basically the people whom we are close with. So because of them, we have so many setbacks because of them. But if we don't have those people within our family who are not sort of dragging us, we would have achieved much more in our professional life or in our academic life, in our spiritual life. There would be in many of the fields we would have achieved, have so many success in many things had there not been those family members or friends dragging us behind. Then, so if you look, reflect, if you look carefully, many of us, maybe all of us, have these kind of friends or families who always tries to drag us down. In one way, they are friends and family. We are kind of like close with them. We kind of we identify as one with them, as family member, as friends, basically as we call them my own circle. But at the same time, in many, many, many cases, they were actually dragging us down as well. So of course, friends and family help us to, go further, to become successful, all that. That is, we're not dealing with this subject in the book here, because that is something we don't have to talk about. We always think good about our family and friend. This is something we do not need to train. It's already in our nature. So what we are trying to train here is to let go of our attachment towards our friends and families. So in order to do that, we have to think about the shortcomings as well. So that's why we are talking about the bad things about our friends and the good things about our enemies. Actually, both good things and bad things come from our friends. Both good things and bad things come from our enemies and from the strangers as well. So if you go to the supermarket, you don't know any of them, but these are the people who stack up all the things for you to eat everything in the restaurant, in a taxi, the plane that you fly. Everything is managed by strangers, but you rely so much upon them. So there is good and bad about everything, but we are focusing on the shortcoming, the negative side of our friends, because uh, only by reflecting on that, in today's time we call them pros and cons. So when we sort of weigh in the pros and cons, then we will be able to uh, we will able to loosen the grip of our attachment towards the so-called friends and families. So so reflect on those things. Reflect on how many on how many occasions our own circle, my type of people, right? Friends, families, relatives, how many times they have been dragging us down spiritually, financially, emotionally, and a lot of time emotionally, it happens, right? Our family, many a times, our closest family members, they drag us down emotionally a lot. And so when you are dragged down, when you are, these are sort of like the consequences that you are paying, karmic debt that you are paying for inflicting harm and pain to those people in your previous lives. So the people who were your families and friends in this lifetime, many of them were your friends and families. You were in contact with them due to good karma. Many of them you have to deal with them because of your bad karma. even your family member. It can be your parents, it can be your children, it can be your brothers, sisters. So we see a lot of sibling, not just sibling rivalry, but like brothers and brothers killing each other, right? So these are, basically enemies from previous lives who were born. We have to deal with that now. It's something that we had to endure as your brother, as your sister, as your parent, as your children. So there are many parents who are cruel to their children, many children who are cruel to their parent. So so all these things happen because of the karmic debt that we owe to the person who were now born as our family members, our friends, etc. So therefore, cultivating, having strong attachment towards your family and friends, basically your allies, is not worthwhile. Oh yeah. So we just talk about the allies type, the friends and families point of view. So we can replicate the same with our enemies, the so-called enemies. So if you use the same logic, our friends were actually many of the friends and families who were our, enemies in our past, in the past as well as in our past lives. Then the same thing can be replicated. Those we consider to be our enemies, because we owe so much to them by inflicting pain and hurtful things towards them. Those people will actually be born as our friends and families, or we will encounter them in our future lives as our friends and families. So this will continue because this is samsara, so cyclic existence. The vicious cycle of friends and family, friends turning into friends turning into enemies, enemies turning into friends, and then them turning into someone whom you don't know at all, indifferent strangers, will continue like that forever until one escapes, one is able to liberate oneself from samsara. So therefore, so you just replicate the same in an opposite manner to your enemies as well. So that those who we consider to be enemies, they are also nothing, solidly there. There's no, they, the so-called enemy is also an evolving character, just like our friends. Uh, so maybe family is not an evolving character, at least in this lifetime. When you are born as a family, you are family. You cannot change that. But friends, even if you are born as a family, some of the family member you are friendly with, some of your family member you are unfriendly with. So the friendliness and the unfriendliness manner of with your family with your enemies is always an evolving phenomena. So it keeps changing all the time. So that is also something we should think about. So these are the reasons that we should reflect on, not for not holding on to our enemies as those who dislike as our enemies, something concretely bad or negative, and our friends as something concretely good as well. And then now for the technique to how to do the meditation, how to develop that. So this comes on page number 198 on the third paragraph. So you will find that. So you can actually read about it, or basically what you do. What we do is reflect on what we just discussed. So those who we call our enemies, there's no concretely towering evil figure that is actually harming us called our enemies. And those we call, so reflect on that. So keep reflecting on that. So the so-called enemies, in many previous lives, they have been our friends and families. And in this life also, many of the enemies that people who become our enemy, first we have a sort of a strong ties with them. And then due to misunderstanding or due to very negative intention from either, maybe it could be from my side, it could be from their side, it could be actually an outsider who is actually instigating a rift between the two of us. Either way, so our friends have turned into our enemies. Our enemies have turned into our friends. So basically, there is nothing reliable, right? Nothing validly reliable about so-called friend as being absolute friends and the so-called enemy as being absolute enemies. So reflecting on that, you will be able to loosen the grasping, okay? The grasping of enemies, the so-called enemies as being absolutely negative and the so-called friends as being absolutely positive. Absolutely positive meaning we actually, even though it sounds correct, like absolutely positive, but when we try to train it, when we try to think of something as absolutely positive, we usually exaggerate over the actual positiveness of the thing. So when we say absolute, we're actually always exaggerating things. So thinking of your friends and families, your allies as absolutely positive, and your enemies as your absolutely negative. So the absolute negativeness and the absolute positiveness, so both are invalid. So train on that, reflect on that slowly by slowly. So we can actually do a guided meditation if we have time, but I think we are now ready for Q&A after this. So yeah, so that is by reflecting on that, you will be able to sort of loosen the grip. Okay, so when you loosen the grip, you are actually calming down from extreme exaggeration of good and bad. Okay, evil and bad, evil and good. So, so when you calm down, then you are on the level ground, the ground level. You are on the, you are successful in leveling, because this is the practice of impartiality, the practice of unbiasedness, the practice of equanimity. So equanimity means making everything level, right, on the same ground, on the similar ground. Oh yeah. So therefore, that we do that by curbing the exaggeration of too good or too bad into making it into the same level. So when we're able to do that, just by having everything as on the same level, just having everything on the same level is not sufficient. It's not enough. That is, if you consider everything as equal, your enemies, your friends, your stranger, everything just same, then there is a chance of you becoming indifferent. Okay, so that is what we call mindless impartiality. So this is not mindful impartiality. You become mindlessly impartial. So okay, someone is dying, I don't care. They might be my enemies in past life, so they're dying, okay, they just die, I don't care. So okay, they're dying, they're just strangers, okay, so I don't care. There's nothing absolute. So if somebody is dying, so what we care? Everybody dies in samsara. Everybody dies in this world. Everybody is being born and die, born and die, born and die. So there's nothing to hold on to. So why we care? So there is a chance of you becoming mindless impartial. So if you're not careful. So what we have to do is, once we are able to get to the ground level, then we have to think of we should not stop just there at being impartial alone. So we have to go one step beyond that. Okay. So the stepping beyond that is, you become instead of being indifferent, you become open to both the good sides of the so-called bad people, the negative, the enemies, as well as the bad sides of the good people, the so-called friends and families, and then also being receptive, or being at least receptive, not recipient, but receptive to the woes, the pain, and as well as the good things about the total strangers as well. So when we open up, then that is not just leveling, but also opening up. That is true impartiality, the practice of impartiality, infinite, the practice of infinite equanimity, the practice of infinite impartiality, boundless impartiality. So this is what we are referring to. Not just leveling everything, not just saying everything is same and stopping there, but everything is same. There's a sameness with not everything is same. Of course, enemies are enemies, friends are friends, strangers are strangers. Because if you say everything is same, then you're just going crazy. Because there are people whom we dislike, there are people whom we like, there are people who we are, know nothing about. But they are not same, but there's a sameness within all of them. Okay, so that is what we have to realize, and with that we will be able to come to level things up, to level up. No, not level up. Sorry, we will be able to level things to make it on the same level. And once we are able to do that, then we have to open up to both the enemies, both the good sides of the enemies, the bad sides of the friends, and to the that of the enemies. Sorry, that of the strangers as well. So being able to see the good side of the enemies, being able to see the bad side of the friends, as well as that of the our strangers. So that will actually train. That is the way to train into infinite or boundless impartiality. Now, next we will have Q&A. Okay, now we open up for Q&A.
Yes, Ella. We have one question so far. I'm going to read that question. Rinpoche, could you please provide further insight into why specifically the fly in this example is reborn into the king's family, as opposed to all the flies or insects that were killed by him?
Okay.
Why was it only this particular fly that experienced this rebirth? Thank you.
Oh yeah, sure. Okay, so your question is what? Oh yeah, you need to do that. The Vietnamese.
Thank you, Rinpoche.
Oh yeah. So the princess Pemacel, right? So let's just call her Pemacel. So Pemacel was not born as the king's daughter because the king slapped her. Okay. Pemacel was born as the king's daughter. Pemacel was born as the daughter of Chisong Detsen. And Chisong Detsen happens to be the king of Tibet. And for that reason, she was considered a princess. Okay. So listen, so hear me out. I will just repeat. She was born as the daughter of Chisong Detsen because Chisong Detsen in his previous life slapped him. In this life, Chisong Detsen is not a low caste worker. He is a king. So because of that, she was born as Chisong Detsen's daughter, and Chisong Detsen is a king, so she was a princess. So the cause for her being born as a princess is different, and her being born as the daughter of Chisong Detsen is also different. So when we talk about cause and condition, it's not just one cause that brings all the result. So for example, me being born as, identified as Tongkhor Rinpoche and all that, as a monk and everything. So for each of different formations in my life, my intellect, my eyesight, my ears, my appearance, the looks, each has different cause and condition. It's not just one thing. Oh, just because I did one good thing, I was born as a human being. Not like that. So many different cause and conditions come into play. So Pemacel to be born as the king's daughter is actually her good fortune. Pemacel to be born as Chisong Detsen's daughter is actually her misfortune. So, okay, so Pemacel in her previous life has done many good things and many bad things. And so one of the good thing, many of the good karma resulted in her being, so that is actually not her immediate previous life. The fly is not her immediate previous life. It's one of her, in number of, she has taken many other births prior to being born as the Princess Pemacel, okay? So the one immediate to being born as a Pemacel, before she was born as the king's daughter, that lifetime, the one immediate to that one. So she had a good karmic, we call that, at the time of death, we always tell people to have a positive thought like that. So she has many positive actions. She has many positive karmic actions accumulated in the past. And at the time of her death, she was able to kindle, to reactivate those good karmic deeds at the time of her death in her previous life, the immediate previous one. And that actually resulted her in being born not only as a human being, but in an upper caste royal family. Okay. At the same time, her karmic seed of the karmic seed, at the same time, there's the karmic seed of Chisong Delsen, whom he has to pay for the fly and all that. So that also happened to culminate at the same time, and that actually happened. So basically, what I'm trying to say here is, when we talk about karmic accumulation of the karmic effects, we're not talking about just one karma. So there are many different karma, because in our lifetime we do so many things: good things, bad things, neutral things. So they all have a result. If you just do a neutral thing, there's a neutral result. Good things, good result. Bad things, bad result. So all those multiple karmic accumulations come into the form of the life that you have. So you asked, one question is that why only this particular fly, not other flies, right? So he might have killed many other flies. Why only she was born? Why not the others? So as I said, so the exact the karmic the functions of karma is extremely intricate. So the exact detail of karmic intricacy is actually known only by the Buddha. It is actually spoken. Okay. So, for example, that one. Okay, like why she was born and not others. Same as, okay, why? Let's say, okay, I have my for example. It is said that, for example, one like a peacock. A peacock has a very beautiful feather, and each of the feather has different, eyes. We call them eyes. I don't know what it actually called in English. So, the design on the peacock, the feather, right? Each has a design. So we call them eyes. So all of them had eyes, and each of those eyes has different hues of color. Like some are bluish green, greenish blue, reddish blue. So each of the color has different. The hues are different, not exactly the same. The color, the shades, and so these things actually they have a cause. Each of the shade of the color of the peacock's feather has a different cause and condition, different cause. But to find out those details, the cause for this effect, for this feather, it will be impossible for us to tell. So in the sutra it says, except for the enlightened one, things intricate such as the karmic, the things profound such as things subtle such as the intricate workings of karma, as well as, for example, that the different eyes and the hues and the shades of the eyes of peacock's feather are subject only to the enlightened one's the cognition. So this is the line, okay? So the intricate workings, the intricate workings of subtleties of the karmic, the intricate subtleties of the karmic functioning is a subject available only to the Buddhas. For example, such as that of the different hues and colors of a peacock's feather. So that was the line. So yeah, so exactly why she was born and not others. So that is actually not. I don't know about that, right? So, but she was born because of that. That we know. Oh yeah. Okay. Next question, please.
Thank you, Rinpoche. I don't see any other questions right now.
I think there's one.
There is one question. Let me see.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rinpoche, I put one in the chat.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. You can. Yeah. You can read it yourself or ask directly. Yeah.
I'm happy to do that. The thought I had is that certainly there's family and other people in the friends category that
Mm-hmm.
in this life have always been positive and good and certainly have a loving relationship with even your own parents. Whereas in this life also there are people who have always wanted or feel like that they have ill feels towards you. So I understand the point that you make about in the karmic such as the story you just said about the fly and the princess. But in any one life, how to approach it?
Mm-hmm. How to approach it, as in the sense of a solution, or how to look?
The sense of impartiality and
Okay.
how to.
I see.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Sure. Thank you, Freeman. Thank you. That's a very good question. Yeah. Very important. Yeah. So the question is, we can see that from a wider perspective of karmic connection from this life and next life, but from previous life and afterlives. But in this very life, how do we practice impartiality towards the people, especially to those those people who have like ill intention towards ill will towards us, right? So this is the thing. So we will come very much down to the basics, right?
Do you need to translate the question, Rinpoche?
Yeah, I think she will translate the
Later.
respondent.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
translate. Just summarized. Yeah, or maybe you can do it, Miss Yen. You want to summarize and translate?
Oh, okay. I'll do that right now.
Sure.
So
Oh yeah. So the first thing is very first thing. The first step is to have recognition, to have realization. So when we realize, so what we need to realize is, just as we covered a little earlier, that those whom we consider to be very good people, like our friends and allies, they are not necessarily absolute good, right? Like in our previous lives, right, like what happened. So those whom we also considered as negative are not absolutely evil or negative. So there was if they are absolutely negative, if they are negative absolute, then they would have to be negative towards everybody, because they're absolutely negative. If something is black, it's black to everyone. If something is white, it's white to everyone. So because it's good to some people and not good to other people, means there is a sense of partiality here, or some sort of it's a matter of perspective. So to you, that person is bad, but to his own or her own family member or her own, people, he's good. So the goodness or the badness of that person is not absolute. It's true that person is bad or has some ill will towards you, but not necessarily that person is absolutely evil or anything. So once we know that that person is holding ill will towards you only, or to you and to your people, but not to everybody, then you are able to, the first unlocking of the unlocking of the grid is that you are able to see that that person is not absolutely bad, or it's being bad towards you only. So that means there is a part of him also being good, right? So for example, someone is cheating on you. That means that person is cheating on you, which is a bad thing. But at the same time, he is cheating to benefit his family or himself or anything like that. So I'm not saying cheating is a good thing, but there is a intention. So there is the person who is doing the cheating from his own or her own point of view, he's doing it to benefit his family or whatever. So from that perspective, you will see there is a there's a sense of goodness, the reason why that person is doing that bad thing. So he is doing that, he's cheating in order to benefit some other people, someone, for himself or whatever. So there is even though it's not a good thing, but there is a goodness within it. So to see that goodness within, so once we are able to see that, then our hatred or our sort of the um, um, aversion towards the person who has ill will towards us will simmer. It will cool down. And when when that thing cools down, then what we have to now think is those people who are being bad to us, right? Is it their very nature? So some people, by very nature, we cannot get along with them at all. So if it's their very nature, if it's in their very essence, then we cannot change that. We cannot change people. We cannot change other people in general. But there are two types of sort of actions. One action comes from the very essence, very naturally, and the another essence is actually adopted one. So if that person has ill will to you through adopted method, meaning somebody said negative about you, and that person now thinks that you are the reason why everything is not going well with him, and then he tries to have ill will and tries to harm you, then actually there's a solution for that. Because there's misinformation, disinformation regarding you, which someone actually instigated, and now you can actually explain to that person, I am not the one who bring harm to you. This was actually instigated by another people. Basically, if there's a solution, if it's adopted, if the ill will that a person is holding towards you is adopted version, is an adopted one, it's because of ill information, or is through his misconstrued perception that he has ill will towards you, then you can actually solve that. If the person has ill will towards you, no matter what, no reason, he just don't like you at all, then there's no solution. You have to let it be as it is. So first of all, you have to be aware of this sort of once in order to simmer down, in order to cool down your anger or whatever that you have towards the person who is harming you, you need to think of something good about that person. Even if he's doing a bad thing, he's thinking like, oh, he's doing a bad thing, but he's doing it for his family, whatever. And then to sort of like reason to use logic in that sense and sort of cool your anger down. And once your anger is down, then you have to look for the actual solution. The solution is the actual solution. So the solution is either you can solve it or not. If it's in their very nature to dislike you, you cannot solve it. Then we actually call it sort of a karmic. We call it the karmic culmination, actually. So in many previous lives, you guys have been at each other's throat for so many lifetimes, and even in this lifetime, when you see each other, you can't bear to see each other. So this happens. So in this case, there's nothing you can do. In the other case where you can, if you for example, you have a good connection, good relation before, and afterwards something happened, and then no more good relation, then there's a reason behind it. So you have to look at what that reason is, and when you find that reason out, and then by solving that reason, which actually made that person have ill will towards you, you will actually be able to address that situation. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone. Now we will do the dedication. Yewan diye nyudo da lama sangye zhugyo nen zhowa shi kyang ma zhu kege sala ge bara shuwa chanchu semchu rinpo che ma ye pa na ma ge ju keba nyamba me ba yang kong ne kong do pe wa ra shu boy my jo my je I sai je ge zo ge zo sai dai be shabai lai soi wai de mi me je ve de chene chene se de ne ke be wo mo join be de boy mo Joma Nze Son Nam Jie Nge Be Zoi Gen Zoi Dai Loi Zoi Shai Lai Soi Wan Den Mi Me De De Jin Jin Che Me Ke Boy John Boy Moi Lu Jo Moi Zi San Will I Jin Ge Zoi Ge Zoi Gai Lord, Son, Joy, Be, Shine, Light, So, Lord, Son, Joy, Shine, Light, So, Amen. You want Amen.
Namang Gege Gon Chang Chok Lop Son Choki GanEnge Children So thank you, Rimachila. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Cảm ơn Rinpoche.
Hello, hello, hello.
Thank you,
Hi, hi. Happy birthday, Wang.
Thank you Rinpoche La. Tất cả anh chị
Yeah,
em gửi lời chúc mừng sinh nhật.
okay.
Có thể
See you
là
soon.
chúc
See you
Rimachila.
soon. Bye. See you soon.